We are live. Heads up, everybody. Fingers out of noses. This is Pontificator night. We have Bob. we have Bob, but we have a special guest. We have Shane Davies in the house, and I don't know if I gushed over you enough, Shane, when you came over to Comicsgate, but you were one of my faves for a while. When you hit the scene on Mysteries in Space, I was like, yes, this is what the industry needs right now. And I told Eddie Berganza, I said, get this guy under an exclusive because he's going to be big. And I don't think they gave you an exclusive, did they?
Well, yeah, they did actually, but not to work for Eddie. I was working on Batman, and actually maybe I did. Yeah, no, I ended up with a Mysteries, and I had an exclusive going into Mysteries in Space.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Because I was working on before Mysteries in Space, and because the amount of work was there anyways, I was working on Batman issues before that. But I was already doing so much work at DC anyways, but not in the comic division. I was doing it all in the licensing division. So, like, it wasn't like I was doing so much work that what happened before Mysteries in Space is there was a bit of a tug of war for me in two different divisions of DC. The licensing stuff, they were basically wanting me to go through and redo all of the Garcia Lopez style guide stuff, which was a really weird thing.
Just back up. So when you got hired at DC Comics, they offered you a style guide versus doing an actual comic book?
I came from the style guide department.
Oh, okay.
That's where I started out at.
So was that Warner corporate, or wasn't DC Comics, right? That was Warner corporate, right?
No, it was still DC. Well, it was in the same building.
Okay.
It was just it was actually on the Batman floor. That was over on 1700 Broadway. You know how there was a metro? Yeah. So it was on the Batman floor. So it was all in the same building.
That license is really good.
No, it's not. It is absolutely not. It's good at the time, except it's not good when it's been used so much. There's no royalty system in it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but the actual artwork pays really well to do it, because we did all the style guides for Spider-Man. Bagley and I did for the movie stuff and the Ultimates. So there were hundreds of. We did the video game too. We did the Ultimate Spider-Man video game. And then we did all the licensing and stuff as well. So I know it probably wasn't 100, but it was a lot of images. We did turnarounds too for the video game.
Yeah, on the DC Comics end, that's only a few $100. So
yeah, and it is a shame that you don't get paid royalties every time the image is used or reproduced.
Yeah, I mean. I don't know, like it. So to me it's bittersweet because I've seen this stuff on T-shirts and merchandise, like, almost getting ready to be 20 years later. So it kind of bothers me.
Spider-Man stuff, that was quite a craze when that movie came out.
Yeah,
they used that image on everything: backpacks, T-shirts, posters, you name it, man. Those Ultimate, that one Spider-Man pose where he's squatting, where he's like got his legs up like this, he's like this. Man, they use that on everything.
Yeah.
Not an extra dime.
They didn't give you a dime for it?
They gave me a couple dimes, but it's just kind of the moment, and then the money's gone. But it would be good to have some royalty money. But the thing is, the old Marvel, I think DC was different, but the old Marvel, they would just take the images from the comic books and not pay you a dime. All that Jim Lee stuff that I did, they were just pulling that stuff right from the book and just using it, and anybody.
That's interesting. Did you guys see that article about Alex Ross where he's talking about how he got screwed out of all the Kingdom Come stuff?
Yeah, I saw that today, which is unfortunate because they're used to the publisher, especially Paul. They kind of made sure people were paid for that stuff. Like I was paid for some stuff they used of mine in Man of Steel, So if Alex is saying he's not being paid for that anymore, there's sort of a different thing going on in DC Comics now.
Yeah, he said something about like they would pay them kind of like hush money to keep them from getting upset. But he says that he's not even getting that anymore, which is one of the reasons why he doesn't work for DC anymore.
Yeah,
it's a strange thing. What was that?
Dynamite stuff, right?
Like he's doing a lot of Dynamite. So I think he did one thing for DC recently though, like for the when they did the CW shows, they did the kind of like they used Kingdom Come Superman in it and stuff like that. Right. I think he did a piece for them or something like that, but then he got screwed out of that too, he said, apparently.
Everybody's getting screwed except for Shane. Shane's not getting screwed right now.
Yep.
Look him right there.
Let me go ahead and share out the book here.
Oh, all right. Well, we're working for ourselves, so I mean, if we're getting screwed, we're screwing ourselves, So.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth. It's like if the book doesn't do well, I guess I can blame myself.
My favorite screw, I don't know about you, Bob, is myself.
The LFU when it materializes and you're like, hey, you said LFU and it actually comes true. Yeah.
Don't screw yourself, Art. Yeah, you grow hair in your palms.
I wanted to put what we do, Shane, is we usually the opening we give a focus on a new Indiegogo Comicsgate book. So this one, I'm going to let it be a surprise, and then we're gonna focus on it. This book needs a little bit of help here. We're going to give it a little bit of focus and talk about it a bit. See if we can get some eyes on it.
Oh yeah, I this thing's struggling.
Hell yeah.
I woke up and I was looking at my campaign and I'm like, I just feel bad I'm not pushing Rainbow Brood enough. Actually, I'm working on this, I guess.
What are you working on it?
The cool story bro thing. Ethan has mentioned that twice. I'm working on it, so I guess I am. So I got to come up with an idea. That's it's a book in this campaign. So
yeah, let's see what the video is all about. I'll give you a little bit of heads up. Turn this up.
Real man in fairyland.
Oh shit! Hang on.
A spectrum of brutality and a pretty good dad. Choke slam a unicorn by backing it today. Only on Indiegogo.
Choke slam a unicorn.
I love that last line, man. Choke slam a unicorn.
What the hell is that, man?
That's a wrestling move, baby. That's the Undertaker.
Yeah, I like it. So yeah, this book is struggling right now, you guys. If you could, it's in the description, so click the link. Ethan needs all the help he can get. He's in over his head. He's only got 27 days left. He's at a pathetic $246,000. He's only got 1,700 backers. So this book is really tanking, you guys. So if you could get in there, give Ethan and Cecil, and I think who else is working on this? So Ethan,
Kyle Ritter's obviously doing the colors.
Yeah, and Kyle Ritter. These guys need a little bit of help. So please go check out Rainbow Brood. It looks fun. It looks awesome. And I know Ethan's been talking about it for a while now. So I know it's a labor of love here. If you want to choke slam a unicorn or cook one on an open fire there, I guess go for it. There's a lot of cool covers here. I think Kyle's is my favorite. Look at that.
Yeah. And that's something they do. All right. So look at the first piece up there, which is like the big splash day with Rainbow Brood. Look at his face. No, down one more. Yeah.
This one?
Can I keep going up? Okay, that piece right there. Look at his face. Do you know what Kyle Ritter looks like?
It looks like Kyle Ritter.
It looks exactly like freaking Kyle Ritter, dude. Rainbow Brood is bottled off of Kyle Ritter. I think it's funny.
Yeah, come by, check it out. Like I said, Uncle E needs all the help he can get. He's struggling right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you what's really funny if you haven't had a chance is to go on stream with Kyle, because his translator doesn't work. So like he is, I feel weird because I don't know if he actually understands anything anybody's talking about. And so he makes just like he uses these face apps the whole time, and it's hilarious because he'll show us what he's hearing and then do face apps, and it's kind of it's very interesting. It's very dynamic. So yeah, if you get the chance, definitely jump on the stream with Kyle.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man.
I've never talked to him. I've seen his live streams though. He used to have a girl that was doing his
interpretation.
Yeah, but who's doing it now?
No, it's like a computer program.
It's a computer program. Yeah, they had like a GoFundMe thing to help him get it funded. And he actually bought that computer program that actually translates for him.
Yeah, that's horrible though.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, but it needs some work.
Have you seen those live streams where they have the robot voice read the chat? Like that's horrible, man. It's so off-putting and weird. But I actually chime in just so I could hear it read because they always say my name wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
but I'm sharing out Shane's book, Art. If you wanna go ahead and throw it out there, and we could talk about it.
Yeah. So the cat's the only cat that knows where it's at. So we have Shane Davis on for a reason, and the reason is he's 31 hours away from his Indiegogo. So was it up for 2 months? Is that kind of what you were doing there?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure about going into a second month, and then everybody was kind of screaming and saying that, they need to get paid and they needed extra time. So then I put it up for another 30 days to float it out there, give people the opportunity. But ideally, I know everybody's different, but I like the idea of a 30-day campaign, even though I know CG kind of does typically 30 and another 30. So I don't know. To me, I think I'd like a 30-day campaign, high energy, 30 days, and you're done. So
yeah, why you're saying that now is because you're ending the second month. I'm exhausted and I want to freaking sleep.
Yeah. But I get that. I can understand going 60 though if the campaign is like really cooking, like it's just really popular and it just keeps going. Like
it did move quite a bit from the first 30 to the second 30.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Crowdfunding is such a changing beast because I was talking about what people I knew that did crowdfunding years ago and what was considered like huge campaigns. Probably about 7 years ago was like a $30,000 campaign was huge. And now crowdfunding, you see Uncle E busting, records and everything's so different now. And I guess I was talking about in demand, like people. So somebody was saying they'd like to have all their artwork done for a book when they run a campaign. And then I was like, but isn't part of the campaign funding the work being done? Because that was the thing is like when people have all the book done, they're like, I just need your support to print it. Here's all the files. It's like there's some weird crossroad there where there's a migration where it's like, do you need that much money to print it? Because some people used to say, I need money to print the book, and it's going into the Diamond catalog, and that was the issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the way it used to be set up is that it was to cover your expenses, and sometimes they would try to be a little coy because they wouldn't come out and say, so we could get paid for doing the book. They would just say, and a little extra to cover, our personal expenses. But most of it was to cover the cost of printing and things like that, because the convention or the idea always was to get them into comic book shops. So it was kind of like to produce, to print them up and then to carry them over into comic shops. And then like the old idea was definitely to have the book done, so then you could turn around and fulfill quickly. Because I think Kickstarter was pretty much the only game for a while. So it was mostly just kind of that, have the book done and then fund it for the printing and then get it into comic book shops. After that, I do remember also, I don't know if you heard this one, Shane. This one cracked me up. It was always like, and always be prepared to fund it yourself if you need be, because you might not get the amount. And so I always thought, well, that's kind of like a really weird, like, I don't know if you're like me. My career, I never have a fail safe. I always I'm all in. Like I don't have an escape route, because I feel like escape routes are ways out, and I never want to way out. When I start something, I want to see it through. And so I always thought like that was a weird thing. Like always be prepared to pay for it yourself. Put it out. No matter what. And I do like the new Comicsgate thing. It's like, well, no, we're funding the production of the book and the printing and the fulfillment. So we're like a one-stop shop. And now with COVID, this last 8 months or so, man, this has been proven to be the perfect way of conducting business. But before I let any of you guys speak, I got to introduce who is the chick magnet. That is the Thunder Buns is the chick magnet. So how are you, Joe?
I've had a bit of a rough week with some health stuff, but I think I'm turning a corner and things are looking better.
Well, Joe, Shane, Joe.
Hey,
Nice
good to
to
see
meet
you again. Good to see you again, Shane. We streamed once before on a Michael Bancroft all-night show,
right? Yeah. Bancroft.
Yeah, long time ago, a reality far, far away.
Oh,
It's pleasure to stream with you again, sir.
we're bending time and space here. Realities are bending. Nice to see you, sir.
Yeah, we're all crossing over. Yeah, so let's show off. We only have Shane for an hour, so I want to focus everything on him. So I'm going to show you guys his campaign here.
I got it pulled up if you want to just.
Okay.
No, you go ahead, man.
Yeah, so here's Starlight Cats. Let's see the video. Words.
Oh God, I hate.
Images are better than words.
Trying to stop our fun. Together with the Starlight Cats, I can collect all the jewels, so the great lion will rise again.
That image is awesome.
Evil alien rats called the bear can live to devour all life forms. In this action-adventure 48-page graphic novel, Rebecca is swept up with the Starlight Cats into an intergalactic conflict. Together, they have to find the power to stop the Farragut's who are determined to conquer Earth. Only Rebecca and this elite team of cosmic-powered felines can summon the magic needed to end this universal infestation. This is Starlight Cats Book 1, Merlion Rising. Back this project today, only on Indiegogo.
Man, that looks good.
That covers dope.
Yeah, this one right here. When you came over, where is it?
Probably all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, you announced your Comicsgate. I was like, holy shit, man.
Yeah. The Merlion's a big part towards the ending of the book, and of course in the second book. But we have some spreads we added to the artwork of the campaign where he's a big part of the supplemental book, which is 16 pages of original story I'm drawing and writing, and it's a half making of book. So I'm thinking, Art, what I'm going to do, and you'll appreciate this, is remember the old Marvel Presents book where it was like 50-50 flip? And you would turn it over.
Yeah.
And flip, and it flips backwards. So half the book's upside down.
Yes.
So that's what I'm doing with the ash can. It'll be half a making of book. So, and then the other half will be a type of it will be original content story, which is like prequel stuff. So there's a 2-page spread of the Merlion kind of wounded and stuff that's in the ash can. So pretty much the ash can story and this is all the same art quality, the same type of material and everything.
Is this the double page right here?
Yeah. So
oh my gosh, look at that, you guys. This is incredible.
Yeah. So I've been adding more pages showing people like, there's robots, cats shooting lasers out of their chest. Basically, each jewel kind of harnessed the power of a star, which is the problem when the one jewel crafts to Rebecca. She basically has like the power to blow up the planet. Plus, it's messing up the whole prophecy, the Resurrector Malayan. So it's kind of like a double whammy here they're having to deal with. So it's a fun campaign. Fun book. I'm actually well into pages in the book too. So I think we basically have like 1/5 of the project already done. So as soon as campaign stuff is over, I'm gonna stream a lot less and start chopping away pages more.
Yeah,
and draw a lot more.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes. Is you do the marketing up front, and then once it's over, you put your nose to the grindstone, you knock that book out.
Well, it's interesting because even when I was doing this, I was still finishing up work obligations I had with DC on Metal Men. So even when I was campaigning, I was still drawing pages for another book. So this whole time of campaigning, I haven't even been able to draw my own book. So right now, I mean, especially as soon as the campaign's over, I can really just focus on this book entirely, not campaigning, not Metal Men. I can just now focus completely, which is really something I'm looking forward to, because I just had finished a 12-issue run, so I was really into this high production speed in my career, which I don't like. I know, Art, you know what I'm talking about with that. I like to take my time a little bit more. So now that I can take my time and produce pages, do both, I'm really excited about that. I know that sounds weird, but it's weird to get yourself conditioned to do a certain thing for a certain amount of time and then just stop. Like it just doesn't.
The hardest part. Like I've been kind of in this mode for 2 years now. And it's kind of like you take off one hat, you get into the other. And there's some people that do it really well. They can go from one mode to the other. But it's good to hear you talk this way, because I that transition period, I have a real hard time. You know, like from writing to penciling, from penciling to inking, to promoting, to live streams. There's a lot of different hats. Hey, thank you so much, Ron. Or how do you say that?
Seraphim Nexus, Ron.
Seraphim Nexus. Ronald, thank you so much for the 25. I do appreciate. Shane C. Boiler Room, for your old good, or for your own good. It sounds like a threat.
What is wrong with you tonight, man?
Also embrace it. Embrace it. Whatever emotion comes, this is how you become CG.
I know the name of this movie, but I can't place the name. I know I've seen this movie. I can't place the story though. What was it?
It's the one with Vin Diesel, where they're like the Wall Street guys, and they're running like the scam. It's like I remember there being like a phone scam in it.
Okay, I know this movie only because I worked at Blockbuster and I was having to stock it on the shelf, but I never watched this movie. So now I'm going to have to sit down and watch this movie. I have not seen this movie. That's the reason I know it, is I was having to put the DVD on the wall, or the VHS. Yeah. So,
for your own good. So he's trying to help you here.
There is a question.
That's a threat. I'm either trying to, there's two ways to take that. That's which side of the coin.
I think I can press both of them.
There is a question from Frood79. He said, he asked, will the shirts be available off campaign for future purchases?
They're being done by Crypto Fashion. So your best bet is to get them now. I don't know if I'm going to put up anything on Crypto Fashion, and even if I do, I think the shirt has to change. So these are what you see. Even if the same design's offered, is going to be offered in a different color.
Yeah, because are you of the mind that the stuff that you offer for the campaign should only be for the campaign? Yeah,
and it's a different deal with Crypto Fashion, I think, even if it is a campaign versus their store. So plus, if you're looking at the shirts, I think they did allow there to be a little bit of a shipping discount if you buy all three. So if you're interested in 2 shirts, you might want to look at the 3-pack just because of that. You may get more for your value. My wife honestly handles most of that. Now the glasses we're dealing with. So those are, again, that was a thing that she came across. I think Patrick did them and they came out really nice, and he put me in touch with those guys. So if you like the Toon tumblers, those were added with the Merlion. Because we had the image and of him free floating and we didn't know what to do with it. So we decided to offer a sticker glass pack with that. So
Yeah, what the hell is a 3D sticker? What is that?
no, it's like holographic.
It's like a hologram, yeah.
Yeah.
Serious?
Like shiny. Yeah.
They're pretty cool.
Again, this is Yanzi's department, not mine. It's good in a way and bad in a way. If she's not on stream with me, that there's certain things I know how to talk about more than her, and certain things she knows how to talk about. Like, so it's weird how we're both handling. Like, she knows all about shipping breakdowns and what this is and what which I don't. Like, so it's nice, and it's that we usually have that dynamic going on, and I'm not handling it all by myself.
Same. It's really difficult. I don't know how you and your wife are, but we get into sometimes we get into it. So she handles fulfillment. She handles most of the more behind the scene business stuff. And then she works as editor and sometimes as a creative writer on projects, but she's always involved with dialogue with any project that I work on. So Pamela's always there. She's not an inker, man. You got an inker wife, right?
Yeah, she's it's sad. It's sad. I hate to say this, but she actually inked a majority of Metal Men uncredited.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and DC just paid me and gave the money to her. And there was actually some covers she did where she tried to sign her name and they were making her remove them. So big props to her. She kept that book out on time. She really came through and helped me and helped that comic even get done, even through a pandemic with no credit. So big shout out to Yanzi on that.
Yeah. That's
were you pulling double duty on that? You were doing pencils and inks, and then is that why she was stepping in, or?
Yeah, it kind of fell apart. The inker that was on it just started bombing out, and it was like a matter of a tight deadline. And let me just try to get it, but it's like getting somebody approved, and she wasn't in the system, and she had inked me on a few things before, and we were like, let's just get it done in house, and let's just get this book done and get it out. And it seemed like the world was on fire too. So it was just like, we didn't know how it would really work out. And so it's not like this is the first time we've done this. We've actually done this probably for about 6 20-page issues.
Wow.
So that's
kind of shitty.
Well, it's the comics is full of horror stories.
Yeah.
So, but the money was there. I mean, I paid her. She got the money.
Yeah.
So
no, it's unfortunate that she didn't get the recognition that she deserved.
Well, there's a lot of jobs that are many hands type of jobs that you never hear about. But I'm really surprised that DC didn't give her credit. DC is usually pretty good with stuff like that.
Well, that's the DC you remember, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just started to. It's weird. We were just concerned with the book getting done because I don't know. I want to get into it. Well, yeah. I got really obsessed about just getting 12 issues of a book out there. I think on a healthy way, I get really challenged, and when I feel mentally that sounds weird. When I feel challenged, I get this mental mindset like I'm gonna do that. It doesn't matter even if it's it's not good for me. I will finish things that aren't healthy for me. And
same way, man. It's almost like a spite. Like I remember, what was it? Andy Kubert was like, I just got the notice like that I was getting taken off of Ultimate X-Men, just like that. And there was no rhyme or reason. I asked why, and it's just like, well, we just don't want you anymore. And I was like, I'm killing myself here. Why? They wouldn't give me a reason. So all I could think of is like, I have 3 pages here. I could just never turn them in. You know, but you're like, no, you got to be professional. You got to follow through. You got to get the book done. So
Yeah.
you know, I did, but it was like almost like, you know how you heard of like people will hate F each other, like, you know, this was like hate inking. Like I was just like, I was like inking all aggressive and everything just because, God, I was so angry because it was like, you know, when you're killing yourself on a book, you're making the schedule and everything, and you think you're doing like great work, and then they're just like, no, and they don't really have a reason. They just like, well, you're not the flavor of the week anymore or whatever, and they just go with somebody else. And sometimes it's hard to take, man, especially when I didn't have another job to go to, so they were leaving me in a lark. So yeah.
Well, that's the worst part about comics and working in mainstream comics, and why I really hope I can continue just to do crowdfunding books and make this work, because I feel like if this doesn't work, then it's like, you know, then all the comics was for nothing. The worst thing about mainstream comics is you have to work on such a big output, and it's time consuming. So it's not like you can have, it's very seldom you can just have another job lying around that's flexible around your late script or your editor or whatever. So, I mean, it's kind of like you have to kind of go into penciling kind of all or nothing. I mean, you know, a page can easily be an 8-hour job, you know, and a deadline, you know, I've known a few artists that try to swing it with another job, and it sometimes causes them to miss jobs, and or their work just isn't, they didn't have the time to put into it. So it's just, I don't know. Like so the comic industry is weird in a way where it's such a weird business when you're working at Marvel and DC, because often you don't know where you're going. And you're also putting your livelihood in the hands of people that maybe aren't steering the industry in a good direction in general. So in especially you look at Marvel and DC today, I think that's the case. There's a lot of talent that have put, themselves, they've been mishandled, people getting jobs and put in positions that they shouldn't. And then when they fail, that's not fair to them. They didn't have to work up to it, and then you have writers running around with these crazy egos that they've been the biggest, but is that even really their fault? Did they work into being a Batman writer? Or were they just given Batman really early on in their career and it went to their head? For people who don't know, Batman's kind of like a measure book. They always assume that Batman sells 100,000 copies and then they determine all the other sales.
I worked my whole career, Shane, to work in the Bat office and still never have. I mean, the biggest claim to fame as far as Batman is I think I have 3 or 4 issues of Detective Comics. And I've done Batman type projects, but I've never worked on the Batman titles, Batman, Detective, things like that. And I remember, man, in the early days, I would always go into, Denny O'Neil, and I'd go, how about now? I'd have my Batman samples, and, I'm working on Superman. I'm working on Adventures of Superman. I'm like, how about now? And he's like, nope.
It's such a bad thing to chase. Like I ended up with some Batman issues early in my career, but I was also doing style guide stuff for all the Batman stuff, and that being used today.
Yeah, I love your Batman. It's really
but here's the thing: I've only drawn like 2 Batman comics, and one was an annual and one was an issue, and even an image of a Batman from that fill-in issue for Doug Mahnke ends up on t-shirts and stuff, and it even ends up in another image ended up on Batman black and white blind bag images. Lately I was denied repeatedly a story for Batman black and white, even when they would do a second volume. But I can now go in Walmart and buy a Batman black and white little mini statue blind bag toy, and my artwork's on it. But I was never given the permission to draw like a 2-3 page Batman black and white story. And that's just the way the industry goes. And it's really, I don't know, it's like a addict chasing a drug or high. It's like the whole Batman thing. I mean, I'm not trying to sound jaded, but I'm trying to be more realistic. It's almost like it's a fun character, sure, but like to see that and to have to go buy my own Batman artwork off a product after being denied. I mean, to be the wrapping on a Batman black and white merchandise, but I was never able to do a Batman black and white story, and I can pull up those emails how I was rejected, and nobody even owes me $1 for that. You know, it's insane. It's like it's a fool's errand in a way, and I don't mean to take a dump on that for anybody that as you know, that aspires to draw Batman or write Batman or anything. It's just it's like you have better luck. I mean, think about that. Somebody has better luck working on Batman, writing a Vision miniseries, and then pissing the world off by saying I'm going to marry this character and not, you know, and then fail at it and then be the biggest jerk in the industry. You know, somebody has more chances of that than actually doing the work, and then the average Joe buying and liking your Batman on a T-shirt or a product. Yeah, it's just there's politics involved, maybe negotiations that go involved. I get this book or nothing. You don't know. It's just it's almost like to me, that's when I was like, I think I'm done with mainstream comics.
Well, that's what I'm done doing the Batman stuff. So I think I went 20 years trying to get a Batman gig, and the only character I ever cared about was Batman. Batman was my world. Like, you know, I grew up in the 60s, so the Adam West TV show was king. The only comic book I ever cared about was Batman. You know, he was my character, and all my career, it was like the Holy Grail. It was just out of reach. It was just slightly out of touch, you know. And I think I did more samples, like Batman samples, to try to get work than I ever did for any other book. And the thing is, I never tried to get Superman. I don't even like Superman. Like I didn't really like Superman as a character. So when Mike Carlin offered me Superman, I was like, I'll get back to you. And he's like, I just offered you Superman. I go, I'll call you tomorrow and let you know if I want to do it or not. He's going, who says no to Superman? I go, I didn't say no. I just said I'll call you tomorrow. And so even the X-Men, I was like, X-Men, whatever. You know, the only thing I ever cared about was the
tentpole book. Nah, screw it.
So all my career, it's like all these books that I never really wanted, I got, and then the one I wanted was I never got. Also, I don't know, Shane, have you ever done a run on the Hulk? That's one book I always wanted. I always wanted to work on.
I had a nightmare job with the Hulk. I was doing some covers I was actually doing interiors for this weird book that Marvel was putting together that was directly like made for Target. They wanted little children book digest. So that's where, like, I understand some of the rules of the merchandising stuff where it's like there's nightmare stuff behind this. But anyways, I had a Hulk, and then I did the cover, and then they're like, well, there's some issues. It was 4 covers that would go in the direct market, but 1 cover to the book. And they're like, well, now we need a Hulk that's less angry. And every cover out of those 4 was like, can you make him more docile, but make him be Hulk, make him do Hulk things, but not angry. You can't have his fist above his head. Like the first cover was like his fist above his head screaming. And then they're like, no, now he can look angry, but not screaming and not fist over his head. So they literally had me dialing back his fist down to the ground to the point where he was showing his teeth to then where he was not showing his teeth. And it was just like, well, what else can Hulk do? He can run in the desert. So I had 1 cover where he was just running in the desert, and I was literally battling with his eyebrows being too angry and the emotion. And it was like, and the editors, instead of just saying to me, like, look, this is Target, you're actually doing licensing images for Target and you don't even realize it. And it was like really at the early stage of Marvel probably figuring out how they're going to handle Hulk later on, when they were selling Hulk product, you know, because of the Avengers movies and stuff. Because every time I walk in a grocery store and I see like a Avengers Hulk on a product, I'll notice he's never angry. He looks like he's
thinking. He's always like,
Yeah, he does.
Monster can't be mad. Yeah.
I want to read this. Johnny Rando. This is like the ego stroke of the night. Reed Blackett is cooler than Bruce Wayne. Fuck yeah. Blackett is black from Black and White. So thank you so much, Johnny Rando. I frickin' concur.
I ain't gonna say anything. That just sounds, God, that sounds like such a disconnect to me, man. It's like the Hulk is literally a freaking rage monster. You know?
Right,
So
but they have to figure out how to sell it to kids, you know, like in this day and
have
age.
him be friggin' angry. That's what they like.
I know,
but
they took it all out of it. They actually had Captain America had to give him permission to get angry. Remember that?
Oh God!
Gosh, like he had to give him permission to go out and be the rampaging Hulk. That's weird, man. That is really strange stuff.
But a lot of that corporate synergy and merchandising and all of that, I knew like mainstream comics was gonna get like ripped to shreds. Like this was a super predator coming in, and people taking things that, you know, companies, you know, they were basically gonna, I don't know how to say it, whore out these characters and maybe even destroy these characters, trying to maximize them as like a market testing apparatus. I don't know, like you know, where they do you know, testing for a commercial or a product. Like they want to hit every demographic, and I think that happened, and then it even multiplied worse, where it's not hit every demographic. Now it's like, can we chase a specific demographic or chase?
Right. I think you're onto something, because even like the agenda-driven stories and things like that, I was thinking like this is Marvel, the film franchise, trying to see if they can play, you know, with some of this these type of games, you know, with
it's the IP form.
Yeah, with more PC type stuff and more progressive ideas, and just use them as kind of the guinea pig and put that stuff out there, because it's the only thing that makes sense to me, because they're not making any money.
Yeah, well, they call it modernizing the IP, keeping it trending. So if they see something like non-binary is trending, then DC's like, well, how do we modernize Flash? And we're doing features in, we'll have non-binary Flash. It's like they're just chasing whatever's, you know, making and it's worse so because a lot of media, I think, especially is chasing I don't know, those hot words that make headlines now. You know, so worse yet, the comic industry is doing that with the characters.
They make headlines, but they don't sell product. Like,
no, that's true, but they don't know what else to do with these books. The problem is that happened in mainstream comics, is that, you know, this wasn't about making comics. At some point in time, they're like, well, we already have that. We already have a big library of Batman on a gargoyle, of Batman punching Joker. And they literally started even saying that when they would talk about their new event or whatever. And, you know what? I mean, they were supposed to have a reboot before COVID happened. And these were some of the things they were talking about. Like, to them, it was like, well, how is Dead Man relevant today? Like, if we did a Dead Man reboot, we have to do a reboot because some of these characters aren't relevant today because circuses aren't relevant anymore, you know, for a new generation. And at some point I could understand that. And another point, I was like, when you start going down that path and you're a company and you're just trying to maximize old IP, sell old rope, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's just upgrading a character. You don't have to change.
Well, but no, I agree. That is that. But then once you cross that line and that's your agenda, and not storytelling, not keeping a cool character and working with that cool character, then you start to go into being progressive, because you've already crossed that line. You already broke that seal. So then you almost need somebody in charge that knows how to stay straight on an agenda. And once you cross that line, any hashtag that you see, you're like, we're making new hashtag. There's a new, well, what characters is that attached to? And what if we get that hashtag? Look how many people. It really was social media. I think social media destroyed comics.
Social media did it, yeah. And that's the thing. Like one of the things we talked about how important editors used to be, because they were the keepers of the characters. You know, they were like they knew the characters so well, and they knew everything about them. And like they said, like it used to be like, if you drew Captain America's boots even slightly wrong, they'd be like, you got to go back and fix this. You got to change it. If you use the wrong color on this, and like Cap wouldn't say something like this. And then something happened in the early 2000s where editors stopped being that, and they just became glorified secretaries.
There was that they busted up editor groups. There was a point in time Dan Didio there was a point in time Dan Didio, that was a thing, they wanted to bust up editor groups. So like an editor group had half Superman, half Batman. It was a power play of the publisher having, and even the editors would say it. They were like, it's Dan Didio wanting more power.
Well, also they took most of the power away from the editors, period. So, how many times have you had these conversations, Shane? Like, you ask a question of your editor and they're like, well, I'll get back to you. Like, in the old days, like if you had a question, they knew that you only had 30 days, if you're lucky, to finish the book. So you actually got these things quickly. So you asked a question, you got an answer, and then you went and you actually executed.
But that was
like,
the story.
Like, can I get back to you? Can I get back to you? I have to check with this guy, X, Y, and Z. It's like, you can't put out monthly comics with that kind of mindset.
No, that was called voting, making stories voted by committee. And when they did bust up editor groups, then everything ran through a committee to decide a story. And then you end up with multiple shelves in one soup, basically. It just, everything starts to dilute. But the interesting about that is the cinematic universe also caused that and then these companies going into that, because then it's like all these characters have to function together and lead into one another, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe type thing. It became like this type of thing. We need all our characters to be able to stand together and and they all function together. So then no book stood on its own.
They all form it together.
Right. You couldn't have Daredevil without, but you could, I don't know, like a Spider-Man book just wasn't a Spider-Man book. It was like, how does that fit in with Wolverine? How does that, and that happened somewhere in the early 2000s too. It was like, how do we get all these guys together? And some of these books were, I don't know, especially DC more so than Marvel. Some of those characters were never meant to connect. Like you could take Wonder Woman, you could take the Spectre, and you could take maybe even the Demon. Well, I don't think, or Superman. All these things shouldn't exist in the same world. You have like
with Shazam, like Captain Marvel. Well, Shazam should never have been incorporated into the DC universe, because I always thought, like, he works best in that kind of quirky, because there was always a sense of humor. There was always humor to it. And as soon as they brought him in there into the DC universe, they lost the humor. And also, once the characters find out that it's a child that becomes Superman, how do you treat the character? Like that's that powerful.
I wasn't even talking about the characters, though. I'm talking about the actual the philosophy of what the world that character comes from. Like Spectre is the wrath of God, then Wonder Woman's surrounded by Greek gods, and then Superman's an alien from another planet. Can all those things exist in the same universe?
Oh, it's tonally. I think that's where I was coming from with Captain Marvel. It's just he doesn't really fit the DC universe, but I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
There's just like, so when they start trying to say we need an event, even that DC would handle it that way. Well, we have to get this character out of the event right away. We have to write out the Spectre or Phantom Stranger because they're too powerful. They would just be able to end an event. So the companies and some of these characters just they really were meant to stand on their own. Like how do you have like Superman on a team with Batman? It kind of works, and kind of that Swamp Thing, another one, worked better on its own. And that, again, putting all these characters together in one universe and the cinematic stuff going on and the corporate synergy or whatever was a big part of them killing Vertigo, just so they could get John Constantine into the DC universe, just so they could have him be in a TV show with these potential characters. There was all these different strings and motives to pull him and Swamp Thing out of Vertigo, just so they could put them in a TV show, hypothetically in continuity with these other characters. It's really bizarre. Like, I don't think John Constantine belongs in a world where Superman is. It doesn't really make sense. But that was the idea, and that's when and all this is obvious over the last 10 years, but comics stopped being about comics.
Yeah, and that actually brings up. So there was a question in the chat. You brought up Constantine. Seraphin had a question. He said, were you ever interested in writing Constantine and making a story for him?
No,
Okay.
I don't know much about the character enough to, but the weird thing is I probably sound like super angry and jaded at mainstream comics, and I'm not. I'm actually not. I'm hoping I can just, produce and make my own books in the future, and have a little bit more control over my day to day than leaving it up to what some movie company decides they want to do and how they want to manipulate comics into doing that.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we've always brought up here is that we don't talk about this stuff and rant and pontificate about these things because we hate Marvel and DC. We love them. We just want them to be what we know they're capable of being. And I think that's the big what the big disconnect that a lot of people think that we just hate on everything. We don't. We like I love DC, Marvel and DC.
And do you know I'm not becoming Amish? Don't the Amish are indoctrinating me. I live next to Amish people. That's why he.
Yeah, who wears the pants, or do both of you wear pants?
Oh, in my house, she wears pants.
You wear short pants like the knee highs?
Yeah, the knee high pants.
Yeah, don't become become Mennonite. You can still use technology.
Yeah, Mennonites. Yeah. I do live next to Mennonites, so it's kind of funny.
But see here, let me see if anybody else has got any other questions. Have you guys seen Have you seen City of Demons? No, I don't even know the name of that movie. I got a question for Shane. How was working on Superman Earth 1?
It was interesting, and that kind of leads into what I was about to say. I actually learned a lot working in comics, especially working in OGNs and then singles. I mean, talking about different story compressions and page counts. I've worked in annuals. I've had one shots I've written and drawn where I had I think 32 pages to pull it all together of story. So I mean, it's like I've ran a lot of troubleshooting, storytelling things working in comics. I've worked with some great writers. I've worked with some not so great writers. I've worked on multiple deadlines, done a lot of it was a hell of an education. And I'm happy to have learned the things I have. I during that time, I think I've gotten to write 8 comics total. So, I mean, I got to do some writing and I'm glad I got to figure some things out and be paid to figure those things out. But, each project has its own things you pull from it. That's the thing, you go into these things and you learn something, every now and then.
Is this true?
Oh my God.
True. I'm off screen for a second. Shane has a good story about him in his underwear only outside yelling at Amish. Well, it wasn't yelling at Amish. If we're going to be specific, it was yelling at Mennonite children staring at me. They should not look. It's my backyard, and just because they were having, it looked like, I don't know what it is with these Amish, but they get all their kids together and they dig around in the grass. It's like I don't know what they're doing. There's no swings, there's no nothing. So I just walked out back. I was drinking my coffee. I was in my underwear, and I looked to my left, and there's a whole hill full of these blonde children staring at me. And I'm like, oh, that's not how I wanted to start off my day.
That's how a lot of horror movies start off.
Yeah. It was totally like a Children of the Corn. There was this old movie, black and white, where it's like The Village or something. All the kids have blonde. Yeah.
Village of the Damned. Yeah.
The Village of the Damned. It's like a scene from that.
That's awesome. They're standing like, look, children, it's our victim.
They actually remade that movie in the 90s, and I think Christopher Reeves was in it, wasn't it?
Christopher Reeves and what was the blonde woman from Crocodile Dundee? I can't remember her name now, the hot one, but yeah, she was in it too.
Did you say Crocodile Dundee?
Yeah, I remember. Don't you remember that? Dude, that's like, there's one scene in that movie that's awesome where she like basically is in her bathing suit and the crocodile almost eats her. Is
that the love interest in that?
Yeah, the love interest from it, the blonde woman.
Yeah. She's pretty hot. Yeah.
Yeah, she's in that movie with Christopher Reeves. I think that was the last movie he did before he got hurt.
Yeah, it was actually. I think no, there was another. No, that was the last one before he got hurt, and he did another movie. No, there was one because he's in a wheelchair, but he stands up at the end, and it was ironic. There was a weird made for HBO movie or something like that. And it wasn't anything popular. It was like a very low budget movie, and that's pretty much his thing. But I'm actually gonna have to jet, guys. I was supposed to go on Michael Bancroft's show, so Art, we need to do this again and not on the clock, where we can just rant about Marvel and DC.
No, I would enjoy it, man. I would love to do that. And you guys, Shane's got his new book, Starlight Cats, and he is in countdown mode right now. So 31 hours left. He is at over $76,000. So that's a pretty good start there. And he's got all kinds of cool stuff. There's T-shirts, there's mugs, there's 3D stickers. I got to get one of those just to see what the hell a 3D sticker is. And there's all kinds of variants. There's a Kenneth Rocafort variant and a John Malin.
Yeah.
There's some cool shit there, you guys. So go check out Shane's new book. And if you like what you see, back it. So Shane, thanks for coming on Pontificators, and tell Michael Bancroft we said hi.
Yeah. Let's see what the Australians are up to. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, man.
Nick Rose has got an awesome idea for a sequel for Starlight Cats. Starlight Fats, starring Ethan and Cecil. Greenlight it.
That's gross. Horrible. We got Todd Mulrooney in the house. Rooney Dooney.
How you doing, guys?
Doing good.
All right. We need some topics from the chat here. Come on, guys. Give us something to talk about.
Well, actually, we got Starfire's daughter.
God.
I wanted to real quickly say this, though. Okay. This is heartfelt, man. R.I.P. David Prowse, man. I know it's a little late.
Oh, yeah.
We lost Darth Vader. I was rooting around. Let me see if I can find it.
COVID's legit, man. It killed Darth Vader.
Yeah. Oh, check this out. Okay. I'm going to share screen. Boom, 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 boom. That's not it. Look at this dude, man.
He was a bodybuilder, man. That's one of the reasons why he got the job, because he was jacked.
I know, but you always see pictures of him like not in his prime, because even when he did Vader, he didn't look like this. So this is when he was probably actively competing.
Yeah, he played a superhero.
This.
He played a superhero in like a safety superhero in his country in like what do they call it? PA announcements or not? Or PA like commercials.
With PCA, with his PCA things. Yeah. But no, man, he was in a bunch of movies, dude. A bunch of TV shows. Remember that movie, that TV series, The Tomorrow People?
Well, he was in a ton. No, I don't. But he was in a ton of those Hammer films, right?
Hammer Don't Hurt Him.
I think he was. I know he was in one of them. I know he's in one of the Frankenstein ones. I don't know if he was in any other ones.
Yeah.
I know he was. He played in. He was a bit character in A Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
And then he did a bunch of TV. The one television show I remember is that the Tomorrow People show.
And that was a TV show? Was that a BBC show? What was that?
I think it was a BBC. Was it? I can't remember. I think so. It was kind of in that kind of thing, but yeah, it was called The Tomorrow People, and he was in that. I remember watching a big Doctor Who thing, and that was part of the side thing of that.
Yeah,
but, I do think you're right. He wasn't. I'm actually looking it up now. He wasn't. Actually, he was in more of the Hammer films than I thought he was. He was in a couple. He was in a bunch of the Frankenstein ones.
Yeah. So very good, man. I have been out of the house and on the go for the last week. So I come back and I'm like, wait a minute, David Prowse is dead? That's crazy shit.
Yeah.
So
dude, did you hear Ben Bova died too? The author, the sci-fi author, Ben Bova?
No.
Yeah, he died. He died today.
What's his best? I don't know the writer's name.
Rendezvous with Rama. It's it's high. Like high concept sci-fi. He's one of those guys that's kind of like up there with like Arthur C. Clarke.
Oh, okay.
But Clark's the bigger name, obviously. But
out.
Yep. And Pat Patterson, the wrestler.
The wrestler.
The first intercontinental champion. He died. I think it was last night.
You're big into wrestling, right?
Oh yeah, dude. I do a wrestling show every Thursday, man.
Yeah.
Did Pat Patterson die on the same day as David Prowse?
I think he. I don't think they did it. I think they died at like a day apart.
Mm.
Well, if they died on the same day, we call those twofers.
But they were all like close to the same. I think they were all like. I think all three guys were 79 years old.
79, man.
Yeah.
I would have held out for another year. Then I would have kicked.
Wait.
Wait.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Seraphim is right. Clark wrote Rendezvous with Rama. Bova did. What was the one that he did? He did a big one.
You're bleeding them both together.
Yeah. Well, they were friends. Like he did. He wrote he wrote a book called Mars. He wrote a bunch of stuff.
So Pedro Eng says Bob's big into wrestling and big into death.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring everybody down, man.
I brought it up, but yeah. So that was a little bit of a shocker there, man. That so now we got Carrie Fisher, we got David Prowse, and
there's only two of them left, man.
The Wookiee dude, what's his name?
God dang it! Now my brain's not working.
Peter
Pumpkin Eater.
No, Peter
Mayhew.
Peter Mayhew. Thank you.
There you go.
God dang it! I can't. I'm tired.
Wait, so we only have two left. So we have
Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford. That's it of the original.
Anthony Daniels.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. Oh, well, I'm talking about the main characters.
3PO is not a main character.
Kinda, sorta. In the original movie, he's more of a background character. I'd say R2-D2 is more of a character than C-3PO is.
Well, didn't we lose that guy too? The
Kenny Baker died.
Kenny Baker, yeah, he died a long time ago.
Yeah,
but if you want to get technical, then there's only three of them left though.
Yeah, we still have Billy D.
Oh well, James Earl Jones wasn't an actor in it though; he was just a voice.
What's that?
James Earl Jones did voice acting in it though. I'm talking about the actors, the on-screen people.
Right, yeah. So there you go. And I think you were talking about the main cast, like from the first movie.
Yeah, from the first movie. Yeah, obviously from the first movie. Pedro Eng, that's evil, man. Little people don't last long.
Hey, Warwick Davis is still
going
strong.
They're getting ready to do a Willows TV series on Disney Plus.
What?
Yeah.
He's a character in The Mandalorian. I saw him. He pulls off his helmet. It's like, that's Warwick Davis.
Yeah. Yeah, Anthony. Yeah, that's true, Ruth. Anthony Daniels is the only actor to be in all 9 of the movies. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that he wasn't really happy with the last 2.
I met that little guy that played R2-D2. What's his name again?
Kenny Baker.
Kenny Baker.
I had to pay him. Like
what?
I went over there. He was carrying his luggage. Him and his wife. It was after closing in San Diego, and he was just walking right. And so I just walked up to him, and he just completely ignored me. And so then I walked back to my friends, and my friend said, "If you pay him, and he'll talk to you." So I went over there. I gave him $20. Talk to me.
You fell for the scam.
I did.
Wow, dude.
Kenny Baker, man.
That's like I don't know, if you guys follow wrestling at all, but there's a wrestler. He was in the WWE. He basically played a leprechaun. His name was Hornswoggle, and now he just goes by Swoggle. That dude legit thinks he's a freaking legend. So like, if you want to get an art or something, he makes you pay through the nose. I'm like, yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of people that are paying that price, man. It's like, dude, you were a bit character for a while.
Yeah, I realize like Lou Ferrigno and those guys. I understand that they, Adam West in the day, that's how they're making their money these days. But after a show, I always thought there was some kind of professional courtesy.
Yeah,
like you just hang out and talk to whoever. But apparently not with Kenny Baker. Yeah, he's all business. He's a mercenary.
Hey,
Right.
yeah, I'm waiting for the chat to give us some stuff to talk about. That they're just basically going off a friggin' Willow. I don't even know why I started over here.
Yeah, I gave Kenny Baker some bus fare. We could talk about Starfire's daughter, Mandy.
Ugh.
That lovely young thing. Sure, why not?
Dude, did you guys watch that video I sent you from Critical Drinker?
Yeah. That was really good. I like how he was saying that pretty much, heroes were something to aspire to. They were examples.
Yeah.
things
Who's going to aspire to this thing?
Yeah, like this is, I shouldn't. I was going to say something really rude and mean, but I'm not going to say it.
Here's the thing that I'll say about this. All right, because I really don't want to talk about it because I'm just like, you know what, whatever. Disney. They own the property. They could do whatever the hell they want with it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
you mean Warner Brothers?
What's that?
Warner Brothers?
Yeah, Warner Brothers. Well, Warner Brothers, DC, even Marvel. We're talking. I'm talking about the whole gamut.
Oh, I thought you said Disney. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they own all this stuff. They
Yeah.
can do whatever they want with it. I'm a big believer in ownership. It's like, if you want to do this, you have the right to do that because you own it. The thing I'm saying is that nobody's going to buy this.
It's not meant for you.
What's that?
YA novels have done really well.
Yeah, but is this going to describe well though, man?
Scholastic. Go look it up. They've
I know.
well
But one of the reasons, right? But one of the reasons they do well is because they only offer like 5 or 6 choices. So it's like, here you can choose between these things.
But those things have a long shelf life.
What format? I've never
it's
seen these YA novels. Are they the size of a comic book, or are they just like a novel?
They're different. Yeah.
Almost digest size.
Yeah, I was just, if you can imagine art like a digest that's maybe half again as thick and hardback, that's what they are.
Yeah. Okay. But no, it's like you said, like superheroes used to be, speaking specifically about 4-color comics. They used to be, they were the new gods. They were the new mythology. They were something to be aspired to. Who's going to aspire to be an overweight, diabetic, angry person? You don't have to buy a comic book for that or a YA novel for that. You can get that in real life.
Well,
I don't have to spend money on it.
If you see what the author or the writer looks like, she basically did a self-insert.
Yeah, which is what all of them have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. They're rather than aspiring to something where they actually have to work at anything, they want to break all these things down to them. They want to reduce them to being us. I don't want to read a comic book about me. I suck.
I want to inspire. Yeah.
It's.
I think is this the person you're talking about? Let's see. I think I have.
Yeah, that's her.
Isn't that Edna Mode from?
Oh my god!
That's that. Yeah, but put the picture of the character.
If you
up there.
do them side by side, yeah,
it's literally her with the same with including the upturned lip sneer.
I can just imagine her talking to the artist and saying, "Don't worry, I've got all the photo reference you'll ever need."
Yeah,
and she says "darling" a lot. Don't worry,
darling.
We'll fix this. Hey, D Geek Art, thank you so much for the $5. I appreciate that. Star Wars girl redesigned Mandy and the storyline, and she did better in 10 minutes than they did. Frankly, it sounds like a garbage story. I just think this is my problem with it. I read the rundown and stuff like that, and on the surface, it doesn't sound bad, right? So the story is it's like a mom that's like I used to make this joke all the time.
It's like a movie star, It's like the child of a movie star.
What's her name that was married? Christy Brinkley, who was married to Billy Joel, right?
Yeah.
And so they had a daughter. Nothing against her, but she looked like Billy Joel. She didn't look like her mother, and so I could just imagine, like, your mother is the most beautiful woman in the world, right? And you look like your father. Like, that's got to be kind of hard to deal with, right? So there's that. So I understand that dynamic, right? But the thing is, if you want to write these stories for young kids to try to learn how to cope, right? If they have an exceptional mom or exceptional dad or whatever, right? I don't know how many people are in this scenario other than like movie stars, like kids and stuff like that. But I don't think this is an everyman's problem, just to be honest. But anyways, let's just go with the premise. So the premise is to teach these small group of people, which have achieving parents that are uber successful or gorgeous or whatever, and the younger kid just wasn't given the gifts. Okay, so I kind of understand that. Okay, so how do you cope with that? We're going to write a story about that. Okay, so if you fit that dynamic, then you can read the story and maybe it helps you, helps you cope. But the thing is, this is a superhero story. This isn't, you know what I mean? Like this is like a DC superhero comics character. Starfire isn't that character. Like, it's just weird to even put her in that situation. Like, and then her daughter would go that far. There is a daughter. Doesn't she have a daughter? Like, isn't there a daughter?
Yeah, she has
her and Nightwing's kid or something.
Yeah, it's from it's from the what you call it, the Kingdom Come universe. Her name's Mari.
Yeah. So that's, I think, for fan service, that's the way to go. You have Nightwing and Starfire. They're the couple du jour, of the DC universe. You have them have a kid, and maybe have to deal with they've written stories like this though before, where the kid had a dormant ability, right? Like you didn't know. Like the kid was like, even that. What was that one? It was a movie called Superhero High or something.
Sky High, yeah.
It was the kid that he was disappointing the parents, and his abilities never really manifest, and then all of a sudden they did, and then he saves the day. So then that's kind of the idea here. But I don't know why you had to do it with Starfire. Why did you have to do it with that character?
Ultimately, here's the good thing about it. They're doing it in the YA novel thing, so it's not part of the mainstream universe or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which, if you're going to do stories like this, that's probably the best way to do them. You know what I mean? So that they're out there like that. And like Todd said, those YA novel things, they are doing better than the regular books. The thing that I don't understand is, well, let's take
this real quick because these things get away from me.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Ron. I remember her X-23 run from Zach, the typical Wolverine story arc, food and pointlessness.
Yeah, I would rather her do a YA novel thing like this than do a comic book. She can't write comic books.
Okay.
There's no energy in them. There's no excitement. If I'm remembering, I can't remember. She did She-Hulk too, didn't she?
I think.
And her She-Hulk run, it took 4 issues for She-Hulk to turn into She-Hulk.
But let me back up because I've never seen these YA. Are they like novels or are they like comic books? Are they panel to panel like storytelling, or are they?
There is a good one that you could check out just because he was a great artist. Remember, he did Animal Man, Stephen Pugh. He did one called Broken Glass, and he did the art, the coloring, everything, and it was just this almost what do they call that, two-tone coloring, where he's only using 2 colors on every page. It was really, really, really good.
So it is sequential art like a comic book.
Yes,
so panel to panel stuff.
But
digest size like the Archie books.
Yeah.
It's thicker, I imagine, right? So it's like it's a novel, so it's
I have a picture. I have a picture of like a box set of them if you want to see it.
I don't see it up yet.
Hang on a minute.
I'm not saying Broken Glass was good. I didn't read it, but I looked at it because I was really surprised to see Stephen Pugh had drawn the art in it.
So Sheldon says they're in the book section in Walmart.
Yeah.
The one thing. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Yeah. So let me zoom in on that.
Oh, okay.
So this is like 3 of them collected, in like a sleeve. So they're like, you remember those like those digests that you could get back in the day. That's what they're kind of they're kind of in that form. This is obviously a little bit different.
And some of them are like a 9-panel grid sequential art. It's storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And then others will be what they're calling chapter books these days. And you might have an illustration on one side and then a chapter heading on the other with just print.
With just dialogue and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking at first. Like I wasn't thinking a traditional comic because they call it like a YA novel.
Yeah. So between usually between like 90 and 120 pages is what these things are.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. 100 pages. Yeah. Okay. So I know the format, and the thing is, I was also thinking, okay, why Starfire? And then the only thing I can think of is like Starfire has the Teen Titans Go. So if they're trying to get a younger market, then they use Starfire. But Starfire in that is a little girl, right? She's not.
Starfire is one of those characters that's always been identified as being very sexy, very like the stereotypical superheroine.
Right.
Very sexy, very feminine, very popular, friendly, bubbly, that kind of character.
And the problem with doing a counter narrative in a sense to what Starfire has always classically been, if you were going to go the other way for her teenage daughter, the problem is that Mariko Tamaki has a history of basically putting herself into the main character over and over, regardless of the title. And she's even got some kind of deal going where she gets to do LGBTQIALMNOP plus #$ for whatever she does. She's literally gotten a contract to be a one-note writer,
progressive
regardless of the title.
Yeah, progressive for progressive sake.
Inserting herself with just different scenarios and different characters, so it seems different and unique, but it's always her, from her point of view, her character is the one that's like, I can't deal with my mom, she's a bombshell, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a tired story is what this thing is.
I think this is very, very little girl, and I don't know how like general it's written, because maybe if it was written in a very general way, which it doesn't seem like it is, then maybe people could relate to it. But the thing is, how many people have gorgeous parents, or like parents that are totally successful? You know what I mean? Like, so this doesn't seem like a general audience thing. This seems like a very specific, type of audience that they would be attracting. A frumpy girl that has like a gorgeous mom that saves the world. You know what I mean? Like, this is not like a normal, relatable scenario.
The thing is, like I said, if they're going to do this kind of stuff, then this is probably the best format to do it in. Because like I said, she's a person who does know how to write, because like someone actually mentioned in here, her Wonder Woman run has actually been decent, but she's another one of those people that needs a really, really strong editorial hand. You know what I mean? Because if you just give her carte blanche, she just vomits boredom.
Well, I want to hear what Todd has to say. It seems like you got some insight on the YA things. I know they're successful, but are they hitting the target audience, or are they still like people that are supporting them?
Yeah, and I never heard this name until Ethan talked about her. It was like Telgemeier, and I went and looked at her books and like what she's made in her career, and it's Steven Universe YA novels. It's really, really bad art. Like someone told me, if you really want to make money in this industry as a comic artist, this is the way to go. You'll make money, da da da. And I look at it and I go, I can't dumb myself down to this. It's so bad. And
Cal art kind of like it's almost like more of an animation feel.
It's not even it's like
what I've seen. I haven't seen a lot of them, but from what I've seen, it seems like it's more cartoony.
I can pick out guys that make me think, oh wow, animated, and I like them. For instance, remember when Jeff Smith came on the scene, it was just like fresh air, and Ringo and those guys were really fresh air because they were so different. They were so on the other side of the spectrum of realism. I always put those guys on that side, and I like them. It appealed to me. But this stuff I'm seeing that's flooding this market is just strange.
It's just vapid.
Well, the reason I can tell you guys from looking into it from a business perspective, but then also having kids who are really into it, the very, very basic illustration style obviously doesn't appeal to us, but for kids, it's not a big deal. The thing that they really respond to isn't the art. It's the overall storytelling. So the writers like Raina Telgemeier, who, as Mr. Dongs pointed out, has had the highest selling comics for the last 8 years, and there's no close second.
Oh yeah, she's like sells in the millions.
I do believe that the second place holder is Dav Pilkey, who does Captain Underpants and Dogman. And I can tell you from reading those books with my kids and to my kids that what they do really well that corporate comics have apparently forgotten how to do is they figured out who their audience was.
Yeah.
And then they worked really hard to try to tell stories that their audience would be interested in. And so when you have girls who are reading Raina Telgemeier, the author is basically presenting stories to them in a way that those readers at those age levels find appealing. And her and Pilkey have done it so well over and over and over again that they're just, raking in the bucks, and they're literally selling books by the millions.
Well, are these officially DC like products? Are they through DC Editorial and everything like that?
The YA novels are, but they're distributed through their book distributor. And what I was going to say to Bob's point earlier, when he was saying that how they were selling so well, my answer to that is yes and no. They did start off strong, but one of the things that has really, I guess you would say, is crimped their style has been that because they're returnable through the booksellers in a way that comics are not through comic shops, DC has had to eat a lot of money on the return copies of those YA novels. And they actually just recently, I think it was within the last week, there started being some information. I'm still not clear yet if it was leaked or if DC officially released the info where their returns were high enough that they started killing off
some of them,
projects for the YA novels that had been greenlit that are now getting pulled before creators get paid and it gets sent off to the printer.
Do you have any idea of what they're selling, what their numbers are?
I haven't gotten a chance to really dig into it this week.
It's kind of weird because it's, according to some reports, they're doing like because a lot of this stuff goes to like libraries and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to know from. But one number I was told was that some of these things sell as high as like close to 100K, and some of them sell as low as like 10.
Yeah.
So it's like the numbers are kind of weird. It's kind of hard to find them.
I wonder if these are like when we were young, there would be like Spider-Man and Friends, and I was a little older, so I was just kind of like Spider-Man and Friends. This is kind of silly. Super Friends, I also thought was a little too corporate, I guess. It just felt generic. It didn't feel cool. Like, the characters never really got to get into physical situations, stuff like that. But I do know a lot of people that was their introduction, to these characters. And do you feel like as a way to kind of make a parallel, like a connection, that those kids then watched Spider-Man and Friends and then grew up and bought comic books? So do you think that maybe these YA novels work the same or can potentially work the same way, where there's these novels, you know, I don't know what their age group is, but do you think then they would, you know, there would be crossover into actual comics, or do you think it's a completely different market?
I don't think so.
That's what DC and Marvel have been hoping for, but I can tell you again, partly from looking at sales data, but then partly also having my own kids who were into you know, Raina Telgemeier and Pilkey's books, and there's a couple others that are out there that are not as well known, but the thing they all have in common is they understand their audience and who their audience is and how to write to them. What DC and Marvel and those books, because I've picked those up off the shelf when my kids are, you know, looking for stuff they want. My kids, I tried getting my kids interested in Marvel and DC for the first several years of their lives, and then I realized that, you know, Marvel and DC were, you know, racing each other to the bottom of the proverbial toilet, and so I really eased off on the stuff that I would buy for them and all that stuff, and I just kind of, you know, would bring them into a store and say, well, just look at whatever looks interesting to you and then tell me what you want. Mm-hmm. And they would bypass the Marvel and DC stuff, and they would go into, you know, Captain Underpants and Dogman and Raina Telgemeier and a couple of these other similar books, but lesser known authors. And one of the things that I realized, because I wanted to know why they weren't going for the Marvel and DC stuff, so I would just pick them up and I'd thumb through them. I was like, oh, okay, so these are basically written for the writers themselves and their friends. They're not written as though they want to appeal to kids. Mm-hmm. So my impression after going through, I don't know, half a dozen of these books, both from Marvel and DC, is that it's almost like these writers will just write in Twitter speak for themselves and their friends, but then the book is marketed towards kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
a good point. It used to be you could read Batgirl or Superman with your kids. Now you have to screen everything first. Yep. And I actually had a stack of comics because I'm cleaning up the house and things. And I was reading through some Supermans. This is New 52 Superman. And I was reading it and I'm like, I read 3 issues. They were all, you know, one right after another, you know, monthly. And I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
I literally, there was no characterization. There was nothing to relate to as far as like a human struggle or anything that was remotely relatable.
It was mundane.
Right. It was just like one mindless kind of epic adventure going into another one, and there was no real consequence. There was no character. There was no personality. There was no stakes. There was no nothing. And I was like, this is what's wrong with comic books.
Yeah. It's the reason why manga's kicking the crap out of them, because manga realizes you got to be bombastic and exciting and fun.
And character.
Yeah.
I think those YA are like, because I don't know, but I know that, you know, just on the Starfire and My Daughter Mandy Hates Me or whatever that book is, it seems like there's emotion, there's character interaction, there's something that's tangible, there's something that's real about it. You know what I mean? Like, this is how real people are. And I think the reason the Marvel universe kicked the DC universe's ass in the 60s is because those were character flaws. They weren't like outside of their control. They weren't like kryptonite or fire or the color yellow. These were like personality flaws. You know what I mean? And so I think they became more relatable characters. I think Peter Parker became relatable because of all those day-to-day things. Like, he's going to school, he's got his Aunt May, he's got this girl he likes, and there's all these things. And that becomes relatable because that's the human experience. But I think the comics have gotten away from the human experience. So maybe these YA novels are tapping into, at least there's drama. You know what I mean? There's character interaction. There's something relatable to the characters, even though it is like Starfire and her frumpy daughter. You know what I mean? But there's a mother-daughter dynamic that people understand because most of us have moms and, you know, and things like that. So it seems like things are relatable more so. My daughter, she didn't really like the mainstream Marvel DC stuff. She bought manga, so she liked the manga stuff. She liked Fruits Baskets and stuff like that. And I think it's because there's character stuff. There's relatable personalities, working through stuff and interacting with each other, and just things that are more relatable. Versus, I so want to name the writer and the artist that were working on that Superman story, but there was nothing there to relate to. There was nothing there to connect with. Absolutely nothing. The artwork was stunning, but there was nothing there.
Look at his avatar, right? That is Renee Telgemeier. That's how her characters look in her book. No different than that.
Yeah.
Very simple. There's one about a little girl who can see ghosts or something like that. And she's making all that money, and I go and I look at it. This is somebody who's saying, listen, go look at this. This is the stuff that's making money right now. Yada yada yada. And I go and look and I go, I can't do it.
Can't do it.
There's no fundamentals. There's no gravity. There's no shadows. The people look like they're floating.
Because there's this idea. Okay, so there was this band, way back when, they were called the Monkees, right? They were like an entry level for like little girls. They were safe. And then the boys, what is it like? What was like some of the boy bands? I can't remember any of the boy bands.
Like In Sync and all that crap.
All those. They're like entry level boys. They're not threatening or challenging, right? So like a young girl could go, they're like soft guys, right? They're not challenging. So I think sometimes like artwork, like you were saying, Todd, like simplified artwork isn't challenging. It's not threatening. It's more of just like it's easy. You know what I mean? But like comic books, sometimes like styles can be a little bit challenging. They can be a little bit more like aggressive, or they could be, a little bit more thought provoking. But these things aren't. They're very, very safe by design. They're very, very like generic in a way that they don't want to offend. And I think mainly it's because they're trying to attract a girl audience.
Mm-hmm.
I think women, like young girls, like things safe. Like,
most of this YA stuff that DC's been doing has been aimed specifically at young girls.
Yeah, Boys to Men, all of those ideas.
They changed the characters.
Mm-hmm.
They do all kinds of weird things, like for instance, Bruce. I don't know what his age is. Say Bruce is 40, and
in the YA novel he's like 16.
Harley Quinn would be, say, 30, but they put them both in high school at the same time. They do weird shit, so it's not. It's definitely for a particular audience, and definitely not for anyone like us.
Yeah, and a good question was brought up is whether or not this is and like you talking like with Captain Underpants and all that stuff that works in that genre for this genre for four color comics, specifically superhero genre. I don't think this formula always works. I think sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't.
They do a good job taking the superhero out of the superheroes.
Yeah, that's the problem is that when you take the superhero out of the superheroes, it's not four color comics anymore.
Right.
Exactly, but it's also not meant. It's not meant for anyone like us.
Which is why I think that them doing it in this format is the best way to do this kind of stuff. Because when they try to do this kind of stuff actually in comics, it breaks down.
Yeah. My only thing is the confusion in marketplace that we've talked about before, but they've been doing stuff like this, for a long time, like we said, like Spider-Man and Friends and Super Friends and different things where they didn't really relate to the comics per se. They were their own entities. And so it's actually, I guess the way we should look at the YA novels is probably more just a licensing venture than an actual comic book itself. You know what I mean? Like it might be produced by DC Comics, but it really isn't a comic book. And like you're saying, Bob, and I agree, that as long as it's not DC canon and they're not trying to kind of make these connections, then, it's fine. You're trying to get a different market. And we've said it on Pontificators, many times, like, if you want a female Thor, don't turn Thor into a woman. Just make a character like Thor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the problem becomes when you try to change these characters fundamentally to try to fit an agenda or whatever the story is that you're trying to tell. But if it's clear, like it's a YA novel or it's an Elseworlds tale, then it holds up. It's fine,
Yeah. The thing is,
yes. So basically, where I think they've ended up with these art, from what I've looked at so far, just the ones that I've thumbed through while my kids were getting the stuff they actually liked, I look at it kind of as these DC and Marvel branded YA books are about as different from comics as a Batman t-shirt is from the costume Batman wears in the comics.
Yeah. It's a completely different format. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah. So more power to them. I mean, if they can brand their characters in that way, fine. I just think that Starfire is an odd choice.
It's the thing that really gets me as I'm looking at this thing. Like, does anybody think that this thing's going to last? Like people might buy this thing, but they're going to immediately forget it.
Well, like we've talked about on this show again, comics will just drive this into the ground. You know what I mean? Like, they'll just like, oh, this is our savior, and then everybody will go to YA novels, and then they'll put money in that, and they'll make some bucks, and then that'll burn out, and then they'll go to the next thing. I think what they really need to do is have multi things happening at the same time, so that they can continue, success and brand.
Yeah.
The problem is always these major Hail Mary passes that they're just hoping, they're just throwing things up there, and they're just hoping that something's going to happen. But there's only the one pass. You know what I mean? There's not multiple balls going up in the air. There's really only just the one. Yeah. And that's always the problem. They did it with the trades, trade paperbacks, and they just played that to the death, and so on and so forth.
And yeah, Christian Nomad actually made a good point. It's like Mariko Tamaki usually writes for 30-something angry women. That's why it feels. I don't think she's ever done a YA novel, has she?
Oh, really?
I thought that's where she started before she came over from to DC.
I thought she. Well, you might be right.
Okay, I got her Wikipedia here. It says Canadian artist and writer. She is best known for graphic novels Skim, Superstar, and This One Summer. And
she did like
it does say several prose works of fiction and nonfiction. Yeah.
Okay.
So she's done both.
Okay, so she's basically going back. So instead of doing, she's leaving. She's heading back into the same territory she's come from. Okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like she's got some chops. I mean, she's done
YA's for angry 30-something-year-old box wine consuming cat ladies.
Maybe.
There is some truth to that, by the way. There is some truth to that. I don't think that's who DC's trying to target, but there is some truth to that statement.
Yeah.
When you look at these.
Case in point, there was the oh my gosh, there's like the Harry Potter novels. There were a lot of older ladies that were buying those, even though they were aimed at younger audience. And then what's the one that the Twilight stuff? There was that series as well.
That was weird.
Yeah, but there were 30-something women and older buying these books.
Man, you gotta be lonely as hell to read that crap.
We should try to get Tom Sidnowski on here, because he wrote some YA novels with feathered characters and stuff like that.
I'd actually like to get Yule over here and talk to him to see if anybody's ordering any of these stuff out of his shop.
Well, these there's no space for them in the shop. These try to go to places where there's space and it stays on a shelf for a long time. If you're in a bookstore, the best thing you could ever do is get your book in a bookstore, because you can occupy that shelf space
but
forever.
They're still putting it out in Diamond though. You know, it's still being marketed there. So I want to know if anybody that's actually into comics is buying this.
It would be interesting to see, you know, if that clientele is, you know, going there for those specific, you know, YA novels. You know, like Dad goes in with his little girl or whatever. He goes and gets the Marvel books, and then, you know, she goes and gets her YA novels.
I will say this about the one that I've told you about, the Stephen Pugh one. Go look at it. You'll be pleasantly surprised how well it looks. Regardless of the story, it's just a very nice looking book. He did an amazing job. His style, by the way, he's now on one of the mainstream titles.
Mm-hmm.
So this was kind of like a comeback for him, and he
got
noticed. Now he's on, I believe, I think he's doing Action Comics or something. But you know, I always liked his style back then when he used to do Animal Man and stuff like that. And you know, he's gotten a lot better. He's actually changed his style to be a little bit more modern. He's not like like Jerry Ordway who sits here and doesn't change. So nobody wants him anymore because there's plenty of them out there, you know. And if he would only change, he probably could revigorate his career. But some guys are just like that.
At the end of the day, like, you know, like getting, you know, just going back on this this particular book, I really don't care what they're doing with this thing. I mean, obviously it's not made for us. It's not made for comic book fans, which is the reason why I'm interested to see if any comic book fans are actually interested in this thing. And if they're going to do this kind of stuff, doing it in that format is probably the best way to do it. Because like I said, every time she's tried to do a comic book series outside of, apparently, like, I've read a couple of issues of Wonder Woman. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's not bad. But I think that's because they've basically looked at the stuff that she's done in the past as, okay, listen, you're going to pass everything you're going to do through your editor, and he's going to tell you what to do here. You know what I mean? I think, and that's something that I've said, like, for a lot of these writers that have issues.
You cannot be given the icon characters and just go willy-nilly with them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's never happened. It never will happen. They just don't allow you to do it.
And they let Tom King do it. Don't say that they won't do it, dude. They let him do it all the time now.
That's not willy-nilly. To think that he would marry or get together with Selena Kyle, that went on way before him. He's not creating a new bridge to a new place. It's the same place. It's already
okay. No, but as far as like what he was doing in his stories and how he's setting his scripts up and everything, they just basically rubber stamped whatever he sent in. Let him write whatever he wanted. You can't do that.
But he's not taking the character and shitting on him.
Did you read his run?
Well, not everything he's written.
He completely shit on Batman. By the time he got done, Batman was worthless.
Batman had shit all over him.
Dude, he was the most unheroic, just completely broken character. That's what Tom King does. He comes in, he breaks characters, and then he leaves them broken.
It wasn't a bat suit anymore. It was a poop suit.
Dude, seriously, there's a reason why people wanted him off that book and why he got taken off that book 11 issues early, because the sales were tanking.
Is the one that concocted the whole marriage thing too, right?
Yeah.
The marriage thing was actually not the biggest problem. It's what he did to Batman himself.
I disagree just as far as a marketing standpoint, and I'll make that point, but I have to read the super chat first. Thank you so much, Ron. I do appreciate it. Speaking of what we are going to see, I think it's worth admiring the energy with which bad comics were put out and canceled these last years. Yes. Well,
I think a lot of those bad, because here's the thing, you know, like I said, we don't want people to think we're just crapping on them. Marvel and DC do put out some good books. It just gets lost in the flood because of this flood the shelves marketing that they've latched onto the last 10 years.
Well, it's the one bad apple, you know, syndrome. But the thing, like what DC and Tom King, I mean, DC had to sign off on this. It was the whole setup for this wedding, right? And then Selena Kyle leaves him, spoiler alert, leaves him at the altar. You can't do this. They had multiple crossover covers. They set this thing up. to the nth degree. It's really like what's it, Roundhead Ryan Johnson. It's like, well, we're going to diminish expectations. No, you fucking deliver the expectations, because that's what people want. That's what you told them you were going to get, and that's what they expected. If you can plus that, if you can divert expectations and you can give them something better, that's how you do it. You don't just have Selena Kyle leave them at the altar and then that's that. Yeah. I mean, that's the ultimate just kind of like slapping, like masculine slap in the face, right? And then how could those two characters ever continue at all?
See, that's the problem with what
they could. Like if some woman left me at the altar, you know, like that would be it. For my sake of pride, I would never ever want to see her again. If I had no sense of pride, then I would grovel and I'd try to get her back. But the thing is, like, where do you go from there? It's a major, major slap in the face to everybody that bought all those books that led up to it, all those variant covers, that bought into this whole, like, we're gonna do this thing. Like remember, okay, the Fantastic Four, Sue Storm, Reed Richards. Everybody wanted to see it. They bought the book. It sold like crazy. They gave them exactly what people wanted. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if that was Tom King's idea and then DC signed off on it, it was one of the biggest marketing faux pas I've seen in recent history.
It wasn't even that Tom King really did, that he did so much damage on the character. It's that he just reduced. It's someone actually I think it's a Central Scrutinizer said that Tom King turned Batman into Tom King. It's just like what Mariko Tamaki's doing with this character that she's doing with the Starfire book. He self-inserted himself into the character.
But at the same time, he wrote the worst Batman. He also wrote the 12 Angry Men Batman storyline, where it went back and forth between his.
Okay, that was because
that was really, really good.
Yeah, and he also wrote The Button, which was a really good story too. But that's when he had an editor that wasn't rubber stamping his crap.
Right.
Because right after that is when he had a falling out with his editor, and they switched him over to I can't remember the other guy's name, and the other guy just was like rubber stamping everything he did.
With a rubber smooch right on his butt.
Yeah. but it's King did the same thing to Batman that he did to Wally West in Heroes in Crisis. He broke him down and reduced him to him, and to just nothing here. There was nothing heroic about Batman by the time Tom King got done. But unlike somebody like Chip Zdarsky,
I don't know anything about him, so he gets beat up by women, like
he's completely broken by the fact that his on again off again girlfriend left him at the altar, and then as time goes on, he just makes every bad decision he can possibly make.
Okay, so she left him at the altar, and then he tried to reconcile with her afterwards.
No, he was just like, oh, she left me at the altar.
Okay.
He punched Robin in the face.
Then he punches he punches Robin. He basically just has a nervous breakdown.
Right after the death of Alfred, he punched Robin.
The child
that was long before
who
Alfred
he's supposed to be the legal guardian of.
Yeah,
he punched him in the face.
And then, but in the final battle,
Alfred dies on this guy's.
Alfred dies because Batman, who's already up and healed by this time, instead of going back to Gotham, Catwoman's I'm going to show you how to defeat Bane. The guy he's already defeated how many times? But she's going to show him how to defeat Bane. And they're basically, while they're doing yoga on the beach, Robin is being tortured, and then Alfred is murdered in front of him. This is the kind of stuff that Tom King writes. And then when Batman does fight Bane, he does so in the most dishonorable, unheroic way. There's nothing heroic about Tom King's Batman by the time he gets done. And then at the end, even if you're going to do something like this, you do these deconstruction stories. At the end of it, if you want to read a really good one, read Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run. That's how you do a deconstruction story right. Because when you bring the character, the hero down, you now have to lift him back up. Tom King doesn't do that. He breaks them and leaves them broken.
Like him.
By the way, Chip has written some really garbage stuff too.
Chip is, dude, you're telling me? Yeah, trust me.
If you write monthly comic books, you're gonna write some.
But his Daredevil run, this like no BS. Like I said, Marvel and DC do put out good comics. Daredevil might be the best mainstream comic book being done right today. His run on Daredevil is up there with the best. It might be the best Daredevil run in the last 20 years.
I'm gonna check it out.
It's really good. Just the stuff he does with Kingpin is awesome. But Batman goes off and sulks at the beach for 2 issues.
Does he really?
Yes, he does. He's doing yoga on the beach. He's got a Tom Selleck porn stash, and he's doing yoga on the beach with Selena Kyle.
Bruce Wayne is not a beach guy. I'm just telling you right now.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. And the whole time, Bane is kicking the crap out of his family. You know, he's basically murdering people, and Batman's just like chilling on the beach with Catwoman. But
it's almost like Zdarsky and King are the inverse of each other's career. Where Zdarsky, you know, when he came over to Marvel, it seemed to me, and I wasn't reading his stuff, to be fair to him. It
was pretty bad. I
was reading reviews of it from a lot of different sources, and it just seemed like it was trash. And I didn't see any reason to buy any of it. And then, you know, the last year, maybe 2, I've seen almost nothing but glowing praise for his work. And the big difference from what people who followed it the entire time, they all said the same thing. They said Zdarsky stopped trying to score woke points and instead just tried to write escapist entertainment and be faithful to the legacy of the characters.
Yeah.
And it seems like King was the opposite, where he started out trying to do that stuff and got known for it. And then at some point decided to write, you know, to score woke points.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you know, that's basically what it is Zdarsky. I think Zdarsky went in there and everybody's talking about how great he was, but then his work was suffering. And then he kind of got humbled, you know, and he's like, I'm just going to start writing the best stuff I possibly can. And like I said, this Daredevil run has been freaking amazing. And then King was that guy that was like quote unquote the hot new talent who just got full of himself. And now he thinks, you know, he thinks his shit doesn't stink. So and ultimately though, we have to give the blame to DC Editorial because they're letting them do this stuff. They're the ones that are empowering this crap.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like, honestly, I can't blame Tom King for doing whatever the hell he wants because they're letting him do whatever the hell he wants. You know, nobody's reining him in. Nobody's like, no, his you know, people are upset at his work. His stuff isn't selling the way that we wanted it to. You know, it's just, you know, it's another example of those people that you could get good work out of this person if you had a strong editorial hand. But
it's not.
And when he had that, he was doing good work.
Yeah,
like I said, The Button is a really good story.
Restrictions and parameters are always good, for the most part. I think, you know, sometimes it can inhibit the work, but I think for the most part it is good. Set parameters and guidelines, and then have talent work within those. It's funny because you can see some great stuff, you know, come out of, you know, situations like that. I clearly don't know what's happening at Marvel and DC. I don't think. I think they're just grasping at straws right now. I'm not even sure if they're going to be around, you know, in the next couple of years. It'll be interesting to see where everything goes. But yeah, in one form or another. But it's I don't think it's going to look like what we
grew up with is never going to come back. Yeah, what we grew up with is never going to come back.
Yeah.
But, and like I said, guys, again, I don't want it to sound like we're crapping all over them because there's some good stuff coming out of Marvel and DC. You just got to sift through it and find it.
Yeah, I like what Matthew says here. King was the Trojan horse, infiltrate and destroy from the inside.
Yeah. And it's really sad because
Endgame is like sometimes it's weird. Like you hear about these writers or you read their work and you almost get the feeling like they have contempt for the universe or for the characters. or they just think they're too good for the work. And so it just kind of comes through in what they craft. And I just think that it's just not good. It's weird because I think as a writer, I think my roommate John Moore was a writer. He's a writer. Is go find new experiences, get out of the house, go places, talk to people, have experiences. Like I love Edgar Rice Burroughs and these guys. They were out and they were living life, and they were going on adventure, and they were bringing them back, to their work. And I just think that one of the things that's lacking too in these adventure comics is just the sense of adventure. So they're almost like they're domesticating comic books. You know what I mean? Like it's not really about these big grand adventures. They're more about like their interpersonal struggles. And it's kind of like, I think grunge killed cool rock songs, because grunge went inside versus out. Like rock songs used to be sex, drugs, rock and roll, and celebrate just like taking life to the nth degree, right? And then it became about like, oh, well, if you do drugs, you might die. And then, there's all these things like we need to start thinking about how these things, how we interact with the drugs and what that does to us and all this other stuff. And it's like, it's not that freaking interesting. You know what I mean? It's like, it's more interesting to see the guy that's like going crazy on stage and just singing his heart out, or shredding on guitar. It's not, like a guy singing about his breakup with this girl, although some good rock songs have come from that, but it's not like this. It's not as deeply psychological as it was. And I think like a lot of this stuff is getting a little too deeply psychological and maybe a little bit too personal, right? Because all they know is their little world. So then they just kind of write about themselves. And, like part of writing is like bringing part of yourself into the work, into the characters. So you have relatability. If you can relate to it, then somebody else will be able to relate to it, but you disguise it. I remember talking to Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby said, in Galactus, there's part of me and my personality in that character, but he's not that character. You know what I mean? Like, Galactus is not Jack Kirby.
You can't reduce these characters down to being us.
Right.
Because they become mundane and boring, and nobody wants to read that, and they're definitely not going to pay to read it.
Yeah, unless you're that guy that drinks beer and you're the most interesting man in the world, like then you can write, about your adventures and yourself all you want. But most of those guys aren't that interesting. They think they're that interesting, but they're not. I think it's going too internal, too psychological, and not enough of just the fun action adventure aspects of comics. And also by doing that, you're also not writing comics for kids anymore. So maybe YA novels are the way. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like at least, they're trying to attract a certain crowd and a younger audience. The artwork already is only going to attract, a certain age group, because we've already commented.
I ain't going to attract anybody with that.
Well, according to Todd Mulrooney, they're selling pretty well.
Well, some of them are.
Some of them are. We don't know if this one's gonna.
That's the thing, is that the ones who were actually written for the audience they claim they're trying to reach, those do sell well. But the ones that come across like they're written for 30 and 40 something year old
angry 30-year-old women,
angry cat ladies, those are not going to sell well to preteens and teens.
And even if they do initially sell, like these moms buy them for their kids, they're going to be forgotten.
Well, the moms will put it up on their shelf and
no, will they? They're half geeked on friggin' box wine. They're not gonna remember.
I just wrapping up. I think that Starfire daughter Mandy, it's like an angry child, that's mad at mom. I think if it wasn't those two characters, I think it might do better. But I think it's a really niche type of idea, and I think it's only going to appeal to like daughters that felt like they weren't as pretty as their mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What,
The other thing too is there's not going to be any repeat business for this thing. You know what I mean? They're going to, like, the people who are going to buy it, they're going to buy it, and then that's it. It's not like they could keep pushing this thing out there.
It depends on where they leave the little goth Mandy character. Like I would like to think that at some point,
losing a foot to diabetes, apparently.
At some point at the end, she would realize that she's her own person, and that
maybe if I stopped eating all the cake,
she's okay. And then maybe she figures out what her niche in life is, and then the ongoing series will be that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea. It's obviously not for me. I can see the merit of it. I
mean, it is like Todd said, it is like when they are successful, they're pretty successful.
Yeah, well, good is good and shit is
I ain't
shit.
buying it.
If you had a daughter, you'd be buying it.
Hell no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't let my kids read that. I give them Wind of the Willows or something. Here, read something good.
Yeah. Hey, is a YA novel considered kind of like the Diary of a Wimpy Kid? Is that
no?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid was like a legit children's novel.
Yeah, and some people in the chat, and rightly so, they were correcting me when I think I said something where I grouped like YA books with Captain Underpants and Dogman and that stuff, and they really are separate age groups.
Mm-hmm.
But the publishing strategy is to try to get kids in elementary schools, the K through 6, let's say, age range, on the things like Dogman and Captain Underpants. And there are lesser known girls equivalent titles that are out there. And the idea is to try and get them hooked on those, and then using the same format, size and page count and everything, then get them into the YA stuff. The stuff that Mariko Tamaki has been writing, the Twilight series, things like that. And the hope is that they can kind of train them in elementary school, and then by the time they're in middle school and high school, theoretically, they're just going to be buying up all those, You Bring Me the Ocean, and was it I'm Not My Mom, Starfire, or whatever it's called. That's the theory anyway.
Yeah. God, what was it? I can't find it now. Somebody brought up the penguin is
the daddy.
Yeah. But I mean, hey man, if they pull this thing off, and then she has enough fans that buy her YA stuff, and more power to them, man. Good luck.
Yeah. But I did when I was reading the write-up, I was like, who is the father? Because you have to go. There is DNA.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like if it was Dick Grayson, there's no way that kid would be like that. Like the only thing that makes sense is, God, I wish I could find it, is Cobblepot, and then
Cobblepot.
Tim Burton's Oswald Cobblepot, yeah.
Jonah Tex Hex. I thought this was a great observation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what was Starfire just ripped on some kind of like alien wine? Like how the hell would that have even happened? Like,
I was gonna say, maybe if she was pounding whiskey during her entire pregnancy, then her and Nightwing's daughter would come out looking like that. But
you don't understand, Art. Being Starfire's daughter is so stressful, and all she does is eat her feelings.
Well, the thing is like, shouldn't she be mad at the dad? Like, why would you be mad at your mom?
In these books, Art, you got to remember something. In the books that Mariko Tamaki does, the dad, you don't want the dad to be that important.
Well, that's also where I was going to go with it. It's like,
the dad's men are a non-factor.
I think the chat, to me, the chat has it. Yeah, the chat has it. The chat has it. It's immaculate conception. A strong, powerful woman don't need no man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably where they'll go, is some kind of alien whatever. But the thing is, the kid is so specific in the way she looks. Like, it has to be.
It's self-insertion, man. It's Mariko Tamaki herself.
Yeah, well, maybe she's the penguin.
I mean, if anybody can't see that as obvious, I mean, like, damn, son, you need to go get your eyes checked.
Yeah, she needs to get one of those cigarette holders.
Yeah.
But yeah,
wrap it up.
Like, as a creative person, that's the story I want to hear. Is like, it's like when she figures out who her dad is, like, holy shit. And then also, if you find out your dad's Cobblepot, then you just go, isn't he rich? Like, well, this sucks, right? Your mom is like this popular superhero, and your dad is like rich. Oh shit, this sucks, right? Like, get over it, man.
Starfire having a kid like that makes me believe that I got a chance with like a hot woman like that. It can happen.
I'd like to be burned by Starfire.
All right, man, let's get out of here. We're just crapping the bed now.
All over Batman. Oh, wait.
Curse you, Tom King.
Point is saying, well, you see, Penguin had this club, and there might have been a roofie involved.
Oh, dude.
Wait. There's some good stuff. Jerry Springer, special mommy issues with Mandy.
Yeah, we could get a good old-fashioned Maury Povich paternity test issue.
Oh, yeah. I want some
Cobblepot. You are the father.
Yeah, have him come out and then have that little Mandy slam him with a fold-up chair. Go all WrestleMania on his ass. Oh, wait.
Tell you something, brother.
Ungrateful brat. Stop it. That'd be the best. Is like, yeah, I don't look anything like you, mom, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, of course you don't. You were adopted. End of story.
Oh my God.
Deal with it. All these are, you know what? We're writing a better story than I guarantee you that book is.
Yes. Well,
oh, wait. Here's the pitch right here. Checkpoint's on fire. Alien Royalty and Gotham Old Elite. There you go, man.
That should be the tagline for the book.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going out on Checkpoint. So thank you, everybody. And thank you so much for the generosity in the super chat. You guys are so awesome. I do appreciate it. Thanks to all my pontificator brethren for coming in and hanging out with us for 2 hours. And I know you weren't feeling good, Joe, so thank you for coming by and hanging out. And thanks to Shane Davis for coming in for the first hour and hanging. And go check out Starlight Cats. It kicks ass, man. There's some killer artwork. Go there, support Shane. I could tell he's a little nervous, leaving the mainstream, coming in here and doing stuff. I've kind of gotten over it, but my first year at Comicsgate was a little bit like that as well. Like, oh, did I just make a major mistake? And what helps every day is hanging out with you guys in the chat, actually, and the support of these books. So yeah, go support Shane. It's a great book, and also Ethan Van Sciver is doing really, really poorly with his Rainbow the Brute. That book is tanking, you guys. So please go support my brother E and throw a few bucks his way. And Chrono Mechanics is still in demand. And Florida Man has a link in the description. That's Todd Mulrooney's book. So go support those books as well. So thanks again. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Take care.